Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video we're going to be talking about my experience at NJS. Now today is November 3rd, 2024, and so I got to start by saying that everyone's NJS experience is going to be different because there's going to be different instructors, different commanding officers. The course is always being updated and changing, but I do think there's probably some things that stay the same. So I'm going to tell you guys about my experience, which, just for reference, I just completed NJS on November 1st, BLC class 24030. I had a great experience. NJS is about 10 weeks long, and if you're watching this, you probably know that NJS is the part of your training and education for people who are joining one of the sea services, particularly the JAG Corps, and wanting to become a JAG, whether in the Marines, Coast Guard, or Navy, right? You will go to NJS. For the Air Force and the Army, it's probably a different course of action, a different military course, but you'll go to NJS, which is at Naval Station Newport. I'm going to start by talking about what to expect when you get there, and then we're going to talk about sort of the structure of NJS, and then I'm going to talk about, what I wish I would have known. So what to expect whenever you get to NJS. You can expect that you'll have had a little bit of communication with the course coordinator and some of the instructors beforehand. You might have had like an online Zoom meeting, and if you're lucky, you'll have got the syllabus, although I think we didn't get the syllabus until we arrived. But in general, you can expect to be in school, right? Like you'll be in the classroom between 8:30 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. every day, with anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half for lunch. You can expect a lot of small groups. You can expect a lot of PowerPoints, and you can expect a lot of on-your-feet exercises, actually trying to get some practical application. But for the most part, it's just like school, guys. You wake up, go to class, you go to lunch, you go back to class. And it's not like law school where you're going to have sort of like long periods of time where you don't have class. Like it's back to back to back to back classes. And so it can get really tiring, especially at different points in the period of instruction. But they try to mix things up and try to change up the pace a little bit. But so it's basically just like school, and I have a little cards thing, just some notes I want to talk about. You'll be using Blackboard, like the online school resource. That's where you'll get a lot of your materials for class, a lot of PowerPoints, a lot of your pre-reads, read-aheads. You will have some like reading that you have to do before class, and you will also use Teams, like Teams messages. You'll get an NJS email account, and Teams is like the primary means of communication when you're at NJS. So if you're not used to Teams, which I was not, you got to get used to using Teams. You can also expect there to be different billets that you can apply for at NJS. So for example, there's like a social chair, there's a coffee rep chair, there's a physical fitness chair, there's a tech chair. I'm sure I'm forgetting other things. A historian chair, there's trash rep, which I don't know if that's a real billet or if that's something that just kind of happened within my class, but there's these different billets. And I encourage, there's mail rep, shout out, Stallman, if you're ever watching this. But anyways, I think that taking on one of these leadership roles, if you decide to do so, it's obviously a lot of extra work, or can be a lot of extra work, but it's a great way to sort of make connections with people in your class. I did not do this, but I can tell just from having watched other people do it that the people who did do these billets, they built really good relationships with other people in the BLC. So now turning to the structure of the basic lawyer course. Broadly speaking, the entire course is segmented into civil law and military justice, and those two departments are actually on different sides of the building. They have different wings where the professors have their offices. However, within civ law, it's kind of broken down into like 2, maybe 3 different subcomponents. Legal assistance, which closely connected to legal assistance is command services / staff judge advocacy. I would kind of put those 3 things all in one bucket. And then another bucket under civ law is national security law or law of war. Legal assistance is going to take about 2 weeks of your course time. Command services / staff judge advocacy is going to take about 3 weeks. National security law is going to take about 1 week. You will have an exam for legal assistance. You will not have an exam for command services / staff judge advocacy, or at least we did not. However, you will have like a culminating event. I would say that portion of the BLC is probably the portion of the BLC that you will have the most assignments. You'll be doing like, we'll get into that a little bit later. And then national security law is one of those areas of law that honestly I wish they would have spent more time on it, because it's a lot of information, and for most people coming from law school, like, you don't have a background in national security law / like the law of war and the law of armed conflict. Like, these are not typical courses that people take in law school. However, legal assistance encompasses a lot of things that people would have used, like to study for the bar, or just generally would have had some familiarity with. I found national security law to be one of the most interesting portions of the BLC, but also one of the most difficult, just because it is a lot of death by PowerPoint, if you will, and a lot of information, a lot of new information. But it was the part of the BLC that one thinks about as being extremely unique to being a lawyer in the military, right? So like the law of war, international law, the law of the sea, I'm probably gonna mess these words up, but jus ad bellum and jus ad in bello. So like the right to war and like what you can do in war. But this part of the BLC surprised me, because I found that I became like really interested in a certain segment of national security law, which is particularly like cyber law and the law of war applied to cyber, which maybe is not surprising for people who've been watching my channel that I found that interesting, but I'm really excited to try to do some independent study in that area as a result of the BLC. And then there is the military justice portion of the BLC, which this is what, most people who are joining, especially the Marine Corps, like, this is what you signed up for, right? Like, you wanted to be in the courtroom, you wanted to do litigation. And I think that, largely speaking, most people who join sort of one of the JAG Corps or become a Marine lawyer, like, they want to do some form of litigation, maybe not for forever, but they at least want to try it. They know that that's something that they're gonna have to do. And so this portion of the BLC is, in my opinion, one of the most active. You're gonna do a lot of small groups. You're gonna do a lot of exercising, practicing, getting up in front of your classmates, practicing your openings, practicing your closings, practicing your cross directs, etc. For me, I found this portion of the BLC the most exciting, primarily because the instructors, like the instructors at Naval Justice School, are really proficient. They're the best of the best within the military. People who have done a tour or two, and then they're coming and imparting their knowledge. They're people who have a lot of trial experience, especially at such a young age. And so early in their legal careers, and so they're not pontificating. They are actually like instructing from experience, and that's like really unique, I think. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what you can expect in terms of like actual deliverables, things you're going to have to turn in. Now, obviously, this is very subject to change. Who's to say this doesn't change the very next class? But at least for my class, I can tell you guys that we had several knowledge checks, particularly during the legal assistance and the command services portion of the course. After so many different lectures, you're going to have these knowledge checks, and those are for a grade. You're also going to have to turn in 3 different wills that you will write using Lexis, and it's very much a crawl, walk, run method of teaching. So they're not just going to like throw you into the will, but you'll get a scenario and you will have to construct a will, and they will teach you how to do that. Part of the command services. Now, this is a portion that like I said earlier in the video, you will have the most deliverables, right? So you will have an ethics memo due, a Service Member Civil Relief Act letter that will be due. You will have a preliminary investigation, a command investigation, and I found the command investigation to be probably the most difficult assignment of the entire BLC, me personally. Then you will also have some exercises that you have to do. You will have a client counseling that will be part of the legal assistance portion of the course. You will also have a commander's brief that is part of the command services / staff judge advocate portion of the course. And It'll be a lot of information because you'll have to sort of give a brief to a commander that encompasses the ethics memo, the PI, the CI, and then there'll also be some additional questions that you'll have to pretend as though you are briefing a commander in the role of a staff judge advocate, which is obviously something that JAGs do. Interestingly, you will also do an ADSEP board as part of the command services / staff judge advocate portion of the BLC. The ADSEP board is not part of military justice, which one would maybe expect to be. And for those who are unfamiliar, ADSEP means administratively separated, but it's not part of military justice because, as the name implies, it's not punitive. It's not part of the UCMJ. It is actually an administrative process. So in that sense, it is overseen by a staff judge advocate or commander, overseen by a commander with the recommendations and input of a staff judge advocate. The last portion of the course is military justice. And at least for us, the deliverables included 4 different charge sheet exercises. So you'll have to draft a charge sheet. You will have to do a motion. I believe ours was a motion to suppress. As part of that motions exercise, you will have a corresponding plea agreement and pre-sentencing exercise that you will have to do. And so you'll, again, sort of similar to the ADSEP board, you'll have someone who you have to go and do, you'll be, either the trial counsel or defense counsel, and you will do a plea agreement and a pre-sentencing, which in the civilian world is the same thing as a sentencing. For military justice, you will have a midterm, you will have a final exam, and you will have several small group participation grades as well. And then the culminating event will be the mock trial, where depending on whether you were defense or trial counsel during the plea agreement, you will switch roles and you will then do a mock trial. You'll do expert witnesses, directs, cross, openings, and closings. And you will, admit evidence, and you'll do all this for a grade. You will have a co-counsel if you are fortunate. Like most people have a co-counsel. If there's an odd number, someone may have to go alone, but it kind of just depends. For the most part, everyone will have a co-counsel. And so it's all very manageable. And again, you're getting really great feedback from people who've been doing this for 4 to 8 years. So it's a really great opportunity to learn. So what I wish I would have known before starting, you guys, it's going to school, right? Like if you're watching this video and you're on this path, you've already likely graduated from law school. So you can expect more of the same in that sense. The same study habits you used in law school are going to be the same habits that get you through NJS. The only thing I wish that I would have known prior is that I wish I would have gotten a copy of the Department of the Navy Correspondence Manual. Look, there are digital versions of that book available, but I promise you having a hard copy of it is going to be extremely useful during the early portions of NJS, like when you're doing legal assistance, when you're doing command services. I didn't get this till like week 3 or like week 4, and by then it was like not as useful. So if I could redo NJS, I would buy that. You can get it on Amazon. I'll have a link in the video below where you can go and buy that off of Amazon and just bring it. Every resource you will use at NJS, there's a digital version for the most part. They will give you a manual for court-martial. They will tell you this is your Bible, and this is like the only hard copy of anything that you are given. You also you'll rent a Military Foundations Rule of Evidence book. They'll give you that on loan. You also get a Surface Pro that you'll have to return, and you will get a couple of other different things, but for the most part, the only thing I wish I would have known is that I wish I would have had that correspondence manual. So hopefully that's useful to you. Come ready to learn. Also come ready to do pain before breakfast, which hopefully you will be doing every Wednesday morning. You will run 5 miles. It'll be a good time, great time to bond, and you can learn more about that in the previous video I made about my tour of Naval Justice School video. I'll have that pop up at the end. So thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.